you that were with us, and then I think we apparently disappeared. So as we know, the reality doing our lives literally on the internet means that we're going to have some technical difficulties. So thank you for sticking with us, and allow me to repeat a couple of essentials. One is to make sure that you know that we have interpretation from our ASL team, Julie. We are also making sure that we're translating in Spanish, and Ophelia is doing that. Please note that you can follow us in Facebook and make comments there. We also want to welcome you, and please do this. Text us at area code 313-288-082. That is 288-2082, because we want to hear from you. And I know speakers also would like to be your questions, because we are here to make sure that everyone understands that knowledge is power, and by us exchange helps us to keep our community safe and thriving. Ophelia, can you repeat that, please?
Si ocupas traducción para estos videos, por favor marca el 313-626-7440.
And Julie, in ASL? Thank you so much. Well, we're getting ready to move into a pretty awesome program that we have today. And in the context of many very special things about this month, one of them is African American History Month. And while it's often used the word African American, it's really looking at the Africa as a diaspora, which means it's inclusive only of the experience of African Americans who were stolen from the continent of Africa, but also the experiences of our brothers and sisters and cousins from the Caribbean, but also throughout South America, Central America as well. So much more to learn, and we're excited to be able to every week just bring you a few smidgens of information. So, which is a really nice segue. So that the word smidgen, which means small, and her name just don't go together. And the person that I'd like to introduce that some of you may know, and if you don't know, our Lord is an awesome and wonderful parent that is part of our coalition and has been a voice consistently as an advocate. And so she's our parent voice today, but also she's going to be sharing some of her thoughts with Black history, as well as I will, and others throughout the program. Arlisa, it's a delight to be back and to be with you.
Thank you, Jametta. It is wonderful being here as always. So again, everyone, my name is Arlisa Hurd. I am, of course, a parent. I'm a member of 482 Forward, and also, of course, a member of this wonderful COVID313 coalition that's just been trucking along all these weeks. We've been right here with you. You know, in the United States, year after year, as Jametta talked about, we celebrate the month of February as Black History Month. Now, I would prefer that Black history not only be celebrated for just 1 month, but recognized throughout the year. In fact, I believe that Black history and African studies should be its own separate required course as part of the curriculum in every school in the United States. But I'm gonna just get off my soapbox for a moment, and I'm gonna get back to my point. I just wanna shift your thinking for just a moment and remind us that Black history is not only about honoring our past, but it's an opportunity to celebrate the history that we're making right now. Over the last 10, 20, 30, 40, even 50 years and longer than that, we've seen Black people, African Americans, in some record-breaking moments. We've seen African Americans lead and create multi-million-dollar businesses. We've seen young entrepreneurs setting trends and ultimately creating market demand for their product or service. We see Black faces showing up in high places, from government to medicine to science to corporate America, sports, entertainment, the fashion industry, you name it. All kinds of historical moments are being created and paths are being set ablaze. We've got Black inventors and top investors and Black financial gurus all the way to the White House, having a first Black president and even now a first Black Madam Vice President. We have every reason to be inspired and keep going. Even locally where we live here, we see all kinds of creativity and one-of-a-kind ideas, from creative foods, dishes, and special drinks. We even have a young person making blankets out of chip bags for the homeless. You may even be making history in your own family, the first to go to college, the first to graduate from high school, the first to run your own business. It's all history. It's your history. It's our history, and we're making it every day. I believe one of the most important pieces of our history, however, is also reflected in how some of those have organized around all injustices against Black and brown bodies, all injustices, especially education injustice, which I believe has some of the most detrimental effects on our communities of color today. And that leads me to a huge injustice that I believe that's being heaped upon not only communities of color, but every community, every school community throughout the state of Michigan. Okay, I'm going to bring you up to speed very quickly. So since the pandemic, the federal government has been shelling out tons of money to help not just the states and cities and towns and all that, but to help schools especially all across the country because they've been shut down. There have been a couple sets of money already. One, the CARES Act, you may have heard of that. That's one set of money. There's a second set of money that has also come down and soon to be a third. But the second set of money is called the ESSER money, which stands for the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund. ESSER, ESSER, just remember that. I'm bringing this up because it's about $2.1 billion that has come down to Michigan. The money is there. It's there. Picture it. The money is there. However, right now, there's some politics and some politicking games that are being played with this money. We have a House Appropriations Committee chair that's essentially holding up the money unless there's some other decisions that the governor makes regarding pandemic power. Now, I'm not going to get into the back and forth of politics, but the main thing is this. We need that $2.1 billion. Our kids need it. We're not just talking about one city. We're talking about every school district in the state of Michigan. But until our politicians stop playing this game, we won't see that money. They can't spend it on anything else, but it's one of those, you better lose it, you better use it or lose it situations. It's federal dollars, it's given to us, it's set for the schools. Why aren't they releasing it? Because of the games that are being played by the House Appropriations Chairperson, Thomas Albert. I'm bringing this up because I want you all to join us in helping to tell this person, this man, and these group of people who are along with him to stop playing with our schools' money. We need it. Now, I don't know, I think we may have some information on the screen. If we don't have it now, we'll put it up later because there are some special things that I would like for each and every person who cares about kids, cares about schools, and cares about school dollars. We need to email, we need to call, and I would like for you to do that right away. Don't know if it's up yet, but later on, I'll be coming back to tell you where you can reach out to this person, this appropriations chair, Thomas Albert. And then also there will be a press release on Tuesday, and we would like for you to join us there, okay? At this point, I believe we may have a panel that's coming up. A panel of parents. This kind of segues us right into that. I think I'm right on point, Jametta, or is this on you?
I think this one is on me.
Okay.
I'll grab the ball from you, Arlisa. Thank you.
Thank
but
you.
also, if I may, families, I want to highlight something that Arlisa said, and that is that history is not something we purely read and we look over our shoulder. We know that in, for example, the Akan tradition from the Asante, and which, by the way, is the fabric that I am wearing, representative of the Asante people of West Africa, specifically Ghana. There's a concept called Sankofa, which means look to the past in order to know where you need to go in the future. So our discussion about history is not just for political or pontification. It's for us to think about what we've done in the past and how we use that to inform what we do right now and what we do for our future. And Arlisa, what you've identified is critical, which is the education of our children. We are, as not only Black folks, but brown people, and every single marginalized group in this country and the world has made progress based on educating our children. So it is absolutely unacceptable anyone who gets in the way of getting the resources that our children need to be educated so they can fully participate in creating the nation that all of us want to see, one that is peaceful, just, and where all people can thrive. So thank you for bringing that up. We want to encourage you to look at the chat so you see the information for the press release. We're actually going to move to a segment before our awesome parents is to have our professionals come to us. So one of the things that was very important when we first began this effort during COVID was how could we make sure families that we were getting you in, but experts who represent and understand the Detroit community. And so very pleased with that to be able to have with us today, Dr. Cunningham. Dr. Cunningham is from the Henry Ford Health System, and he's going to talk more about his particular role there. But one of the things that's exciting about what Henry Ford is understanding, that in this discussion about vaccines, people have concerns. They have what's called vaccine hesitancy. And we'll talk about that as we go forward. We're also particularly delighted to welcome for the first time to our program, Elisa Malley. And if I have mispronounced your name, please correct me when we bring you on. And she is the Deputy Chief of Staff for Mayor Duggan and is primarily responsible to help coordinate how the city has moving us forward around the vaccine.
Jametta, excuse
go
me,
ahead.
I'm sorry. We've had a little bit of a shifting. We wanted to bring up some of the parent voice about the vaccine. So, because I do believe there may be some questions that's coming out of that panel that our medical professionals could certainly address as we go along. So I think yes. I think
I'm going to say, I'm going to hand it to you because as with all things, we're flexible. We know how to go flow. So instead, we're going to have the parents come forward, share their questions, and medical team, we ask you to please be on standby and be prepared to respond. Arlisa, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, everybody, a little bit for the mix-up, but this is what happens when you're virtual and you're all these.
Exactly.
We got it. We're making
and 3 different devices. Okay.
We're making history, right? We're making history.
Yeah, good.
Okay, so I believe we have Bernita Bradley, Cindy Gamboa, and James Ribron. Am I pronouncing that right? As part of
just
our
Bernita
panel?
and just Bernita and Cindy.
Oh, just Bernita and Cindy. See, I'm telling you, we're making history. We're flexible here.
It's just us, Bernita. Yay.
Yes. Bernita and Cindy. Both of these ladies I know all too well. One of them is a travel buddy of mine, but I'm gonna leave that alone. But so we want to kind of just talk really quickly about some things that we've known to come up. Can you real quick just introduce yourself and tell us who you're with, just your name and who you're with so folks can know?
I'll
Cindy?
go first. So,
okay, Bernita, go ahead. Bernita.
So I'm Bernita Bradley. Yeah. I am owner of The Village and Director of Outreach and Engagement for Hope Starts Here's Detroit Champion of Hope.
Thank you. Cindy?
And I'm Cindy Gamboa. I am the Director of Community Organizing and Advocacy at the Detroit Hispanic Development Corporation.
but my most important role is a mom of 3 kids, a preschooler, middle schooler, and a high schooler that's about to start college next year.
Okay. Yeah. And so I think your voices are definitely important, but I think I just want to set the stage and set the room with this question, and then you all can just kind of get in there. You know, in terms of the vaccine, do you have any concerns, or are you hearing any concerns or questions as it relates to the vaccine in our communities, especially family, friends, you name it? I just kind of want you to just share maybe what you've heard, what you're thinking, and so our health professionals can hear what's happening out there, and maybe they would be able to address some of these issues as they speak. Cindy, would you
Okay.
like to go first? Either Cindy or Bernita, doesn't matter. Just jump in.
Okay. Yeah, so there's a lot of things that are running through my mind, right? So vaccines is everything feels like it's moving so quickly, right? We had to, COVID was thrown our way, and last year was really rough because we had to deal with just the ramifications of like the stay-at-home order, virtual learning, testing, people getting sick, and us, losing people, right? So there's a lot of things that are thrown our way, and it's really hard to keep up with what's the latest information, right? It's a novel virus. We don't know a lot about it. So I feel like the last year I had trouble with figuring out, okay, how do I keep myself safe, keep my family safe, get tested if I feel sick or get exposed. But then the whole vaccination conversation came up at the latter part of the year. And it's only been around for a couple months right now, right? So I definitely have a lot of questions as far as, we heard the rumors of, this vaccination was in the works. They were trying to speed it through, the whole pipeline to make sure that we had something that could protect the population to stop the spread. But all of that it was really concerning to me. It sounded like we need to rush to get this out to the public. So a lot of my concern is with that process, right? Making sure that in that process, there was a lot of like due diligence to make sure that our communities, once we get it out into our communities, that people are safe, that, they thoroughly did research to make sure that it's going to be effective and it's going to help our community.
So thanks, Cindy. Bernita, what are you hearing? Does that sound similar to what you're hearing or what you're feeling too?
Yeah, historically, right, Black families have had the downside of testing and experiments, right? So this is seen as an experiment right now, and so families have so many questions. It's one thing for us to post information about the vaccine, where you can get the vaccine, and how the vaccine is supposed to help. But people want to know deeper than that. People want to know how this is impacting people on a regular basis, and not just to pull up a video of someone saying, well, this happened to me. They want to know from the same people who are sending out the information that this is supposed to be fabulous and it's supposed to be wonderful for the community, right? Because we don't know enough. And because we know that the virus is constantly mutating, families are like, well, how do we know this vaccine is going to work? If it's constantly mutating, have you thought about the mutations that come up? And also, what are some of the side effects? Like, how are the side effects impacting people, and who are they impacting? As opposed to us just hearing one-off stories about, oh, here's a doctor here who died from the vaccine, or here's a nurse who's disappeared, right? The flip side is, I'll say, a lot of people, I've been on calls where people are kind of like doing this roll call of who's taking the vaccine, right? Like, we're on Zooms and people are like, I'm taking it, I'm not taking it, but here's why I'm not taking it. Like, people want to feel safe with their decision, right? This is my body. My body is my body. I make the conscious decision to take or not to take, right? Give me the information I need to make that conscious decision, and don't make it punitive if I decide that I don't want to share with you if I am or am not taking the vaccine. And so people are really slandering people. I've literally been on calls where people have said, well, somebody's not smart if they are taking it. Well, somebody is smart if they aren't. Well, you're dealing from an ignorant place, or you're like, now it becomes the battle of like,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, I think, and I think those are very legitimate concerns. I've been hearing some of the same things too. And I know we're up on time. I think we have just about 1 minute before our health professionals and our doctors step in. But one thing I've also heard too is that now with the different brands of the vaccines, why is that? What's different? What's the difference between one and the other? One has to be refrigerated longer. The other one doesn't have to be refrigerated. And so all of these concerns, I think, are legitimate. And hopefully, I'm sure that our medical professionals definitely will have a response and answers for us. But I just think that it also lies in education. People have to decide for themselves what they want to do, but we have to have the accurate information. So,
and Lisa, one thing, like we definitely need to make sure that our approaches are actually getting into the community, right?
yes.
Because we need to meet people where they're at. We have to go to the grocery stores, like plaster it on the bulletin boards at the churches, at different places in the community. Because if we have more trusted people that are talking about like real facts about what is in this vaccine, then it's easier for people to digest it and not just rely on what they've seen on Facebook or any other media, right? So
We might need a big mobile unit with one of those bullhorns on it.
Do it. Yes.
Signs plastered, and everybody you could come up to the unit and get information and talk or whatever. Okay. All right. So they're pressing me, they're threatening me in the chat about time. So let me get off of here. And I am going to toss it back to you, Jametta, who you can, with all of these wonderful and very, very important concerns that folks have, we're hoping that the medical professionals can take us home and help us understand some of this. Jametta, so I'm going to hand it back to you.
Yes, so thank you, first off, Bernita and Cindy, as powerful representatives of our community. Thank you for your candor. And what we do want to let folks know, that there is no shame. There's no shaming of anyone. What we want to do is make sure that we're providing information. And if I can just push the envelope, we're asking you to know that the quote experts that we bring on this program, at the end of the program, we're going to provide information to their institutions, the Detroit Health Department, Henry Ford, Chaz, people that you know that you can go to get information. Because again, as you have more knowledge, you can make a better decision. And so with that, let's move into our conversation. And so really pleased to be able to have three health experts. I'm going to ask each of you if you would, I'm going to call you to the screen, ask you to introduce yourself and what role that you play with your institution. And then we'll go into some questions that hopefully help us to answer some of the things that are in the community, and then maybe things that you have been focused on and wanting to ensure the community knows as well. So we have Dr. Dennis Cunningham from Henry Ford, Elisa Malley from the mayor's office, and Dr. Felix Melbuena, who is from Chaz, our one of our fairly qualified health clinics, important parts, hospitals and clinics, part of our infrastructure. So let me, if I could start with Dr. Cunningham, if you could introduce us and your role, and then after we've introduced yourselves, we'll go into the questions. Dr. Cunningham.
Thank you for the invitation here. By training, I'm a pediatrician and a pediatric infectious disease doctor. And currently my role at Henry Ford is I'm the medical director for infection prevention across the system. And I am the medical physician in charge of the vaccination program and evaluating any vaccine adverse reactions or side effects.
And if I may also, Dr. Cunningham, Henry Ford, I believe, has established a group really focused in on vaccine hesitancy. Is that the case, or could you address that?
Absolutely. There is a group, a multidisciplinary group, physicians, community members, that's really trying to put information out there in understandable English to address some of the common concerns. I'll be happy to try and answer questions today. And again, my agenda is to provide information. People need to make the decision that's right for themselves. For me, I chose to get the vaccine, but I can talk more about that later.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. And also joining us is Elisa Malley, who is from Mayor Duggan's office. And I understand you're our new Deputy Chief of Staff. Welcome.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me on here. I'm Elisa Malil. I am Mayor Mike Duggan's Deputy Chief of Staff. My role during COVID has been to stand up our testing sites. So if you came through at State Fair and got a test, I was part of setting up that operation and logistics there. And as of recently, I have been part of the operation to stand up and run TCF, which we have been running a lot of our vaccines out of. And I'm proud to say that we have administered about 42,000 vaccines out of TCF since we opened on January 13th. I look forward to taking any questions on our process. And if anyone has any questions about what it's like to come through TCF or just a general community question, I'm happy to take it. And I know the experts are on here for medical questions, so I look forward to hearing from them as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you. And I don't mind saying that I happen to be one of those folks that had the experience of going to the TCF with my husband. And I got a shot in the arm. And I want to congratulate the city for running a really fabulously well-organized operation where everyone in that team was welcoming and supportive. So that's huge because the messenger and the way that we respond to people such a difference. And so our next speaker really understands how important customer service is and engaging the community. And that's just so happy to have Dr. Felix Valbuena, who is the CEO of CHAZ, to return to us. Dr. Valbuena, please.
Good afternoon, Jametta. Hello, everyone. I'm honored to be with you again today. My name is Felix Valbuena. I am a family physician, and I serve as the CEO of the CHAZ Center, the Community Health and Social Services Center here in Southwest Detroit. We are working tirelessly to make sure that we are sharing accurate information as we get it. I've heard a lot of individuals talk about it being changing quickly day to day. And our goal is to share very science-based information with the community to mitigate vaccine hesitancy, and at the same time have everyone be able to make a very, very informed decision about what they do regarding the virus.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So one of the first questions I'd like to pose to you is, how is your organization specifically distributing the vaccine? And we know the state gave a whole schedule. There's phases, phase 1, 1A, 1B, so on and so forth. Where are you right now in terms of who is eligible? Why don't we kind of use the same approach of who answered? So Dr. Cunningham, how is Henry Ford currently distributing the vaccine and determining eligibility?
So we have followed the State Department of Health recommendations. We're really focused right now on adults 65 and older. We're going backwards from our oldest patients, and we're keep going down to vaccinate people. We have worked with the city of Detroit, other health departments to get some essential workers in there. The state has shifted how they're giving vaccines out. Now the bulk of the vaccines are going to the health departments, not the health system. So we're continuing to offer the vaccine. We've also partnered with community churches. Ebenezer Church was one where they had vaccine. We provided people to give the vaccine. So we are more than happy to partner with health departments and community groups. And as soon as we get vaccine, we start giving it out.
So if I might ask then, your distribution, is it at your hospitals, at your clinics, or are you partnering with other groups and Henry Ford team goes out to do the vaccinations there?
So we're doing both. We have
Okay.
we have various clinics open up, including the One Ford Place Center in
Okay.
Detroit. We have some mobile units, and then we're partnering with various groups as well.
Okay, that's good to know. So let's continue. City of Detroit. We heard some new news, which is that at one point the vaccines were being distributed to health systems. If I understand it correctly now, are all the vaccines going to the Detroit Health Department, who then help us understand that, if you would?
Yes, so they currently will be going to both. It's just that our allocation increase has increased from the state. It's this crazy game back and forth with the state, but they've been very helpful in getting us the vaccinations with what they have control over. So what we've been doing at the city is when we opened it up to our essential workers, which was phase 1B, we partnered with Henry Ford to get our frontline workers, so that's EMS, fire. And then when we got into phase 1B, Henry Ford was a big partner with us on that. And then we had our first senior Saturdays this past weekend, and we're going to continue to have them. And they were at Fellowship Church and then Second Ebenezer that we partnered with Henry Ford on. And then DMC was our other partner. So this was for us a way for us to get into the community and go to the churches and vaccinate 500 people at each location. We plan to do the same thing this Saturday. And we're happy to announce that we'll be rolling out more churches every weekend as time goes on. But we've made it really simple for everyone to call one number. So you can schedule, if you are 65 and up and a resident of the city, you can call 313-230-0505. You can make an appointment for the church location if you're 65 and up and a resident, or you can make an appointment at TCF. At TCF, we are taking a variety of different individuals. So that is residents that are 60 and older and that have a chronic medical condition. We also opened it up for residents of Detroit with documented intellectual, behavioral, and physical disabilities. And then we also have, to fall in line with the state guidelines in this phase, food service workers, K through 12 teachers and support staff, daycare workers, members of clergy, etc. We have an entire list that we can send to you that you're eligible to receive a vaccine at TCF.
Great. Receiving that information would be wonderful, because it is certainly our hope that every week that if we could receive from all of the health systems and local clinics what you're doing where, we are happy to be able to distribute that information. Dr. Valbuena, how is CHAZ involved in distributing, and what are any eligibility requirements?
So at CHAZ, our initial vaccine was for our employees, being healthcare workers. And then because of the focus on the hospitals and the health departments, we were not getting any new doses for patients. We have now, because the state has worked to prioritize federally qualified health centers throughout the state, there's 42 of us, we've started to receive small allocations. And then the federal government has also prioritized, the same time that they're continuing to allocate to the states and also allocate to pharmacies across the country, are now sending direct doses of the Moderna vaccine to federally qualified health centers. It is well known that federally qualified health centers are located in high need areas. We are pillars of healthcare in the communities where the most vulnerable individuals live in the country. And so we will continue to receive allocation from the state. We are next week going to start receiving allocation from the federal government. And all of the vaccines, we're administering them here at the center. We're currently doing it on a schedule. So we've created dedicated schedules for individuals to come get vaccinated, taking into account the number of doses and the length of time that the vaccine can be out of the freezer before it gets into the human body. And so we are reaching out to our patients that are 65 and older. We have not set up a way yet for individuals to call in to schedule until we know what the volume of allocation is going to be. Once we have a steady flow of vaccine, then we will entertain individuals calling to make appointments. So for right now, what we're doing is we're reaching out to all of our patients that are 65 and older. We have almost 1,000 individuals in that age group, and are getting them on the schedule based on their desire to accept the vaccine.
Okay, that's really helpful and a little surprising that fairly qualified health clinics as being such an important part of the backbone of working in communities that have been disproportionately ravaged by COVID. So we're glad to see you being part of this infrastructure now. Let's dive right into some of the concerns and things that we're hearing from community folks about their concerns about the vaccine. So one of the questions that's bubbled up is this vaccine potentially going to cause infertility? Anyone?
That is a big myth. This vaccine does not alter for any problems with getting pregnant. In fact, in the initial Pfizer studies, 25 women who got the vaccine candidate actually became pregnant. And their babies were all born nice and healthy. So that's really an unfortunate piece. The internet does a lot of great things, but unfortunately, there's some bad stuff out there too.
Yes, I'm sure we could all have a whole nother conversation about the things that we have read that are apparently in the vaccine. But by the same token, we don't want to trivialize it because people's beliefs are that. That's why to ask these questions. But let's continue on this maternal and kind of pregnancy. So if there's nothing that inhibits fertility, what about the vaccine for women who are breastfeeding? Have there been any studies to show that there's been any impact with breast milk?
The initial trials did not include any breastfeeding women. The two vaccines we currently have on the market, Pfizer and Moderna, there's no live virus. There's nothing that's going into the breast milk that would be transmitted to the baby. So Center for Disease Control and Prevention and the American Academy of Pediatrics do recommend breastfeeding women receive the vaccine.
Could I hit pause on that for just a moment and ask you, and maybe even Dr. Valbuena, if you could expand on that? So one of the questions people have had, and certainly we heard both Bernita and Cindy speak to it too, people have wondered about the quote speed. And we know that the inane administration that we had before, and we understand the rightful suspicion that came as a result of, again, the lies and misinformation that were there. But this whole issue of the speed, and then how does the speed affect what's in the vaccine? You just said there's no live virus within this. Could you talk a little bit more about what that means and what in fact are the key ingredients and why this was able to come to the market so quickly?
Sure, and this was fast. For those of us old enough, it took years to figure out that HIV was the virus that caused AIDS.
Yes.
Our technology now, within days to a week, we can identify new viruses. So that was wonderful that this COVID-19 was identified so quickly. The two vaccines approved in the United States use what's called messenger RNA. Those are genetic pieces that are blueprints for the cell to build something. And if you've ever heard in the news any immunotherapy trials for cancer, it uses the same technology to make cancer vaccines that help people's white blood cells fight cancer. So they use the same technology. So it went pretty fast because the technology already existed. The clinical trials where they actually vaccinate volunteers and monitor them, that was not rushed at all. And besides the Food and Drug Administration and the Center for Disease Control and Prevention looking at that data, there's an independent committee called the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices. These are academic infectious disease experts who look at vaccines and they make the recommendations on this. So this really wasn't rushed. Just the United States alone, over 60,000 people received these vaccine candidates as part of the large phase 3 trial. So even though these came out quickly, nothing was skipped on that. I have still great faith in the people, the scientists who were involved in this. I do know some of them who I've worked with in the past at the federal level, and they are good people. They would not put something out there if they didn't feel it was good. And I felt comfortable enough. I have my 2 doses. There's my vaccination card. Of course,
Yeah.
I'm doing it backwards here. So
Okay.
that's what I'll say for I felt comfortable receiving it.
Excellent. Dr. Valbuena?
Yeah, I would add, I'm in agreement with everything that Dr. Cunningham said, along with what's in the vaccine, because there's detailed questions aside from the mRNA of some of the other inactive things that are in there. So a little bit of lipids or fatty substances, and that makes it greasy so that it can get inside the cell to do what it needs to do. A little bit of salt that helps to help control the level of normal acid that's in the blood. And then a little bit of sugar, like basic table sugar that is in there. And that helps the form, the molecule, we call it, maintain its shape during the freezing, because both of those vaccines, they're different temperatures, but they're both frozen for transport. So some of the inactive substances are pretty common things. A little bit of greasy, a little bit of salt, a little bit of sugar to help that mRNA get into the cell, do what it needs to do, but not get into the nucleus of the cell, the heart of the cell where your DNA sits. So it's not changing the DNA, because that's another question is, it's getting into my DNA and it's going to change me, who I am. And it never gets there. It sits in the inside of the cell to produce that protein that our immune system is going to identify to then, when it sees it on the virus, if you're exposed to it, then it can take care of what it needs to do. But then that mRNA is broken down and your body gets rid of it. So there is no live or dead part of the vaccine. What we're doing is we're teaching our cells to make a protein that sits on the surface of the virus, so that when and if you are exposed to the virus, your body recognizes it and already has defenses created against it. So these are very safe, and I completely understand the hesitancy on the speed, because it is the fastest that we've ever done created vaccines, but it is very, very safe. I also have my 2 doses of the Moderna vaccine, and I'm as I'm educating and sharing information about the vaccine, I'm also recommending that individuals get it when it's made available for them.
Okay, and who would have ever thought there was a little bit of salt, some sugar, and some fat? The very things that we tell all of ourselves to avoid is actually in the vaccine. We've got some other questions, but I wanted to go back. In fact, let's think about it. We talked about pregnant women, kids. So we know that many of the trials have not included children under the age of 18. But what can you tell us about what we know right now? And we know that science is still evolving. All the answers aren't in because all the questions haven't been asked. What do we know about the potential impact of the vaccine on children in that young adults, that 18 to say 25, because they're still developing in some ways.
So their immune systems are fully mature. Pretty much once you're 12, the way your body fights infection, it's fully functioning. The vaccine works very well in young, healthy adults. And, Pfizer, 95% effective, Moderna, 94.1% effective. So they're great. Pfizer is approved for people as young as 16, Moderna as young as 18. And there are trials ongoing right now. And I would bet you sometime this summer, the vaccine will be available for children under 16.
Okay, so right now, which of the vaccines are being tested on children, and from what age range to what age range?
Whole bunch of kids, I believe, over 2 years of age for Pfizer and Moderna. And then there's other vaccines that will likely be approved in the country in the near future. Johnson & Johnson has one. They're doing pediatric trials as well. So we're a few months away before we're going to see what that data looks like. But I do believe we'll be able to give the vaccine to just about everybody. Will be eligible by the fall.
And I'm sure that we're going to have similar questions and concerns that are going to come from parents around children. And for our pediatricians and the American Academy of Pediatrics, we're going to continue to look to those voices. Elisa, could you tell us right now at TCF, what are the age ranges that you eventually do anticipate? So if I show up with someone who is 80 years old and in the car with me is someone who is 30, but has comorbidities, would they be eligible to receive the shot?
So currently we have seen folks from different ages come in and receive the vaccine. You have to be 18 and older. That was per our guidelines. So if you are a food service employee that's 25 and work in the city or live in the city, you would qualify to get the vaccine. So we have made those standards here.
Okay, so I'd like to kind of shift to what I think is another really critical issue that gets talked about on the surface, but rarely head on. And that is the reality of the historical and institutionalized racism that has permeated not only the healthcare system, but every aspect of society. So let's go to, I think it was you, Dr. Cunningham, that made the note that you in fact know some of the scientists that have been involved. Can any of you speak to, so have African Americans and Latinx community been involved, number one, as scientists in the development of the vaccine?
Yes, there have been.
Do we have any local heroes, that's what I would call them, or scientists that any of you know that we could lift up here in Michigan, particularly considering that Pfizer is being produced right here in the state of Michigan?
So I'm fairly new to Michigan. I've been here for 5 years and I love it. So I'm not as familiar with all the doctors that are here out in the Pfizer plant.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, I don't know any local scientist heroes either.
Yeah. Well, and I say that because, as we all know, the messenger matters. And so we want to make sure that we're capturing that. The other concern that people have said, so we all know about the history of the Tuskegee experiment, but that's just a blimp in actually a long continuum of lots of things, not to mention the health disparities and the biases that Black and Brown people encounter when they encounter the health system. So now, how is your institution specifically trying to address those issues of racial and ethnic disparity? How are you trying to make sure, one, your process is more equitable and inclusive? And in what ways are you including Black folk and Latinx and other communities in being out in the community to work and inform the community?
Well,
Anyone, please.
Sure. Part of the partnership we've had with a couple of churches, they have been predominantly African-American churches, so it's great we can be there. Myself and a few of my colleagues, I'm losing track of how many of these sessions we've been given, it's not a complaint by any means.
I
We want to
understand.
give people the information.
Mhm.
Everyone here is a smart person. I will share the facts as I know them for people to make their own decisions. We are tracking ethnicity of people when we vaccinate them. We are very much cognizant that we want to make sure that some of the groups that are really at the most risk for COVID complicated illnesses and death get the vaccine, which in many cases are minorities. And Henry Ford's also committed to the state of Detroit, which is why one of our vaccination centers is downtown at One Ford Place, excuse me.
Yeah.
Well,
Go ahead.
I was just gonna, from the city's aspect, I mean, our number one, we had a few goals, but our first goal was to make sure everyone had access to the vaccine. So the way that we did that was just providing one phone number so people could call and make an appointment, and then have a central location, but then also set up the churches and work with the clergy and the bishops and the pastors, and then go into the community with the senior living homes, and get out there and have more of these panel discussions. I know a lot of the members from the health department have been talking to different community members, educating them. And I think this is what you all are doing today is really critical. And then on site, an important thing is that we provide transportation to the site. It's $2 for residents. So they will come pick you up, bring you to the site, and then take you back home. We also have ASL translators from our laptops. So if someone comes in and needs one, we can get that done right away. We also have a hotline on site that if someone comes in and speaks a different language, we have about 50 options that people can point to, get a translator on the phone. And then we also have all of our documents that you receive post-appointment translated in Spanish, Bengali, and Arabic. And then if there's another request, we can get that to you. And we also have them in Braille as well.
That's great.
would say
Dr.
that-
Valbuena?
Yep. So I
Go
would
ahead.
say that we're in our 51st year of providing health and wellness services to the community. And from the very, very, very beginning of the pandemic, we've put forth extraordinary efforts to make sure that one, we stay open, two, that we continue to meet all the needs, not just the COVID needs for our community, advocating for us to have been able to get and continue to do the COVID testing, and to advocate for our community to be able to get the vaccine. And we're starting, we're starting to get that, to continue to provide the best care that we can to everybody in the community. We're partnered with our community based organizations to make sure that we're on the same page in the education space, providing information here on the COVID313, our social media, partnering with the health department as well as with Henry Ford to make sure that we're leveraging all the resources without duplicating or stepping on each other's toes, to make sure that all of the necessary resources for our community are here and made available to anybody that needs them.
Yeah, I so appreciate you making the point about not trying to have duplication and not step on each other's toes, which is really hard because in this nation, and even still in this wonderful state, led by a really awesome science-based team from our governor and obviously our chief health officer, but still we don't have a single entity that helps to coordinate all of this as a clearinghouse approach, so that each of you are not all trying to make a system work. So I have two final questions, and then I want to switch. Arlisa, I'm sure we got questions that might be in the chat. So the question I'd like to ask now is about the numbers. So equity is huge, and we already know, particularly when it came to our seniors, that probably as many as 40% of the deaths in the first several months of COVID just devastated Black elders. And also we saw the same thing, and we've seen that in First Nation communities and with Latinx. How are we tracking, or can any of you say now, based upon X number of vaccinations, what percentages are you tracking it? Then two, what percentages are you at in terms of vaccination, specifically of African Americans and Latinx communities?
Henry Ford
So
is
we
track-
are current.
Go ahead, please go.
Oh, I was going to say we are from the health department in the city. We are tracking that. We had some backlogs, so we will have everything up on our dashboard as far as race and ethnicity, hopefully in the next week. So you can go online and we will provide all that information from everyone that we have vaccinated, and that's going to be almost 60,000 people by next week that we would have touched.
Okay, great. Thank you. Looking forward to that. Go ahead, Dr. Cunningham.
So I'm looking at an email I just received. So we offered the vaccine to all of our employees. I can tell you that looking at this data that, where was I? So 35% of our African-American employees and team members received the vaccine. About 54% of the Hispanic employees, providers received it. And for Caucasians, around 65%. I'm looking right now to see what we have been doing in the general public, but I don't think I have that data yet. We are breaking it down. I'm sorry, I don't remember it off the top of my head, but I do know Henry Ford's actually been one of the more successful health systems getting various groups vaccinated.
Okay, because that is certainly concerns, obviously, for all of us that are focused on equity. And as a member of the governor's racial disparities task force, we are all concerned at the end of the day. Yes, we got vaccinations, but are the people who have been most grossly impacted by it received it? Arlisa, I'm going to kick it to you, but just let me ask this one last question. And Dr. Buena, you brought it up. So the Wayne Health, for example, the COVID313 mobile units, in addition to doing testing and offering vaccines, they also are providing other health-related supports. So the goal is not only getting vaccinations, but making sure that we're connecting people to their medical home or other medical resources that they need. Can you talk really briefly about how you're trying to do that, or is that still something that's in progress? And let me start with the city, and then Henry Ford and Chaz, please.
Can you say the last part again, please? I'm sorry, you cut out.
Sure. I was asking that in addition, so we're getting shots in the arm, but in what way is the city doing any either at the location or afterwards to make sure people have the information they need to stay healthy? In other words, to make sure that they in fact have been connected to a primary care provider or are getting their blood pressure tested, diabetes. All these are the conditions that actually lead to some of the high hospitalization and death rates that we have had.
Well, we definitely at all of our locations have information for folks that if a medical individual feels the need to give them information on just any sort of condition that they may have, where they can go to receive more information. But the health department is working with getting just information out for individuals with certain illnesses. But we could do a better job being more proactive, especially at TCF, on getting more of this information out. So that's a really good point. But it is always on our minds to push out more health information.
Yeah, and from an advocacy standpoint, we are all here wanting to see us all be healthier through and after the pandemic. So that's an opportunity that I think that the city would be awesome to take advantage of. Either Dr. Balbuena or Dr. Cunningham?
Our vaccination clinics are really only focusing on vaccines. We've given at Henry Ford over 107,000 doses since middle of December. We continue to have, though, all of our outreach, all the clinics we have throughout the city. We have those groups who do their outreach for primary care. So we have been very careful to make sure that even though we're focusing on all these vaccines, we have not shut down or decreased how much primary care or specialty service we have, because we want to continue to meet the community's needs.
Okay, thanks. Dr. Valbuena, anything you wanted to add?
So I would just add that because we are known pretty much as a one-stop shop for health and wellness, that and because we're bringing individuals to administer the vaccine here, all the other services that we provide, from primary care to dental to pharmacy to behavioral health, community health workers, we actually partner with Gleaners and are doing monthly food box drives, about 300 boxes a month for individuals coming to the center. So we're not only focusing on the medical and the vaccine, but working very, very hard on mitigating social determinants as much as we can to have people be the best version of themselves that they can.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much. I think we probably have some questions in the chat. Arlisa, can you come on, please?
Yes, I am here. We do have some questions actually in the chat. It's just a couple questions. The first one is, somebody said that I had COVID and now I'm afraid of getting the vaccine. What do you suggest that I do? And any one of you can answer it, please.
I would recommend they get the vaccine. And the reason for that is there's some data out now that the protection from the vaccine is likely going to last longer than the protection you get after being infected.
Agreed.
It won't hurt you just because you had COVID before. The vaccine's not going to hurt you. The only thing it may do is make your immune response better.
Okay, great. And this, the last question is, I hope I'm understanding this question correctly, but they said, what about liability for any injuries or reactions as a result of the vaccine? I almost feel like they're asking if someone had a reaction from the vaccine or was injured, who would be liable? That's what it almost sounds like they're asking. I'm not really sure, but if anybody has any comment on that.
So in the United States, there's actually a federal program, a vaccine compensation program, where they have a whole group. They will evaluate people if they had vaccines, and if there was an adverse reaction, it would then go, they actually award money. That's something that's paid for by the federal government. That was developed many decades ago when a lot of the manufacturers were threatening to stop produce vaccines in this country because of the threat of lawsuits. But I can tell you at Henry Ford that the reactions I've seen, no one died from it. No one wound up admitted to the hospital in the ICU or anything like that. So I do want to stress, I think this is a very safe and effective vaccine.
Okay. And I'm looking at the nodding of heads, so I'm assuming that you all are also in agreement with that. Well, I just would like to thank you for this wealth of information, and also to remind folks that have questions, please continue to ask those questions, and we are dedicated to making sure that we get questions and have an answer for you in the following week. So at this moment, I'm going to pivot just for a second. If you are just coming in, you may not have heard, but I had discussed or had raised some concerns regarding education injustice at the top of the hour. And just as a little bit of a refresher to let folks know that there's $2.1 billion on the line that is designated for Michigan schools. $2.1 billion designated for Michigan schools, handed down from the federal government, as they have done for all school districts across the country due to the pandemic, because schools are in need of lots of money to get through all of these circumstances that have resulted as a result of COVID. However, the politicians in Lansing, there is a high stakes political poker game that's going on right now. Apparently, we have folks, chairman of the House Appropriations Committee, that is working in concert with some other people who agree with him. They're not releasing the money, so to speak, unless there are some other things that are exchanged. In other words, they're picking a fight with the governor because they want to control who gets to open and close and all of these other things that go along with the pandemic. Now, okay, I get it. But for those of us, parents, teachers, students, families, we don't care about any of that crap. What we're saying is $2.1 billion has been designated for every single school district here in the state of Michigan. You don't want to be the group of people that's responsible for holding back that money when these kids we need PPE, people need to be protected, we need air filtration systems, we need all kinds of stuff, all kinds of learning, literacy coaches and everything to get our kids caught up. So we want you. I know that there is a link in the chat. Representative Thomas Albert is the House Appropriations Chairperson's name, who is pretty much leading the pack on withholding. Well, he says he's not withholding. Well, not releasing the money or not really bringing it up in committee so that it can be released, we want you to text him. We want you to email him. We want you to call him. We want you to send this link out. There's a video attached to it to 10 people, post it, make it go viral. Because you know what? This thing is really happening in silence. There's nobody really talking about this. 1 or 2 groups have picked up on it, but you don't really hear this. And these are the kinds of things that go down in our legislature and even in our federal government that nobody knows about and is allowed to happen because nobody's speaking up. So I do believe that there is information in the chat. We will also have additional information. You can go to 482forward.org for additional information, as well as the Facebook page of 482forward to get even more information and to also see the video and post it and share it. Now, I have done enough talking, and at this point, we have some great information from our folks at DTE about tree cutting, and I would like to hear about that. Mr. Terrell Lockhart, hi, I'm fine, and what about yourself?
I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Very good. Terrell Lockhart and Linda Tinsley it's just you two, right? Okay,
And
thank
Clinton
you.
Williams.
And who Williams? Okay, there's someone else. Oh, I'm sorry, there you go. I didn't see you. So we have Mr. Terrell Lockhart, Linda Tinsley, Clinton Williams. Please, you all can share the information. If you could first quickly introduce yourselves, even though I already called your name, and tell us what you do at DTE. If you can do that quickly. We'll start with you, Ms. Tinsley. Ms. Tinsley, let's start with Ms. Tinsley.
Good afternoon. My name is Linda Tinsley. I am the business manager for student services at Focus Hope. So we are partnering with DTE. Thank you.
Good. Focus Hope. Hey, I'm a Hope Village resident. Hello. Mr. Williams, how about you?
Hello, my name is Clinton Williams. I work with IBW Local 17, that's International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. And I currently serve as the trainer / evaluator, and I sit on the board of trustees.
Very good, thank you. And Mr. Lockhart, you can introduce yourself, tell us what you do, and just lead right on into what this is all about.
All right, I'm last and certainly not least, Terrell Lockhart. I'm a manager at DT Energy. I'm the manager of local resource development. Actually, I'm tasked with expanding our tree trimming workforce and adding diversity to it, to be short. And so before I have a short presentation that I'll share and a short video. And so what I like to do is share this video. Looks like I have the capability to talk about tree trimming a little bit. And then I'll get back into the presentation if that's okay.
Great.
All right, so let me show off my technical savviness here. Let me know if you can see my screen.
We can, yes. Thank you.
All right, I'm about to press play. Make sure you guys can hear it and maybe kind of loud. Watch your volume.
Well, no day is ever the same. You might be going up to do some brush chipping or some light trimming, or you could pull up to a job and have a big, huge tree that's a huge project to take down with a lot of roping and rigging over the power lines.
As an apprentice, I climb the trees, I drop everything down safely, I grab the brush and chip it. Line clearance is a great trade to get into in which you can make a good living in. We're currently trying to attract high school students interested in joining an outstanding apprentice program.
When I'm up in the trees, I get an adrenaline rush. I get butterflies. Safety precautions up there keep me totally safe, so I'm not worried about any hazards. I have to remember that it's a job and I'm not just having fun. It's just exhilarating and it's awesome.
We all work together as a team, so that builds camaraderie between us. It's probably the best place to be if you want to be a tree trimmer.
All right, that's that. No. Well, looks like I'm able to go right into the screen here. Works properly. All right, 1 second. I apologize. Looks like I can't get my pause sharing. Share. Okay, bad. This should be it. Share.
So you're gonna have to stop sharing the current screen to be able for us to see the next one.
Okay. Let me see. Okay, stop share. All right, there we go. Thank you. And see, that's what it's all about. When somebody needs help, you reach out and give it to them. There you go. All right, so now I'll go back down to share. And maybe I should have practiced this again, guys. I'm sorry.
We're all learning together.
Give me 30 seconds here. I'll get her done. All right, I'm at the bottom and I'm clicking share. Oh, there it is. All right. All right, I'm on the right track. 5 seconds. Bam. All right, now I got you. Got you right where I want you. All right, so thank you guys for the opportunity. I see you guys have a lot of important things to talk about, so we certainly appreciate an opportunity to come here and talk about a need that we have. This is virtually basically a flyer that we have. So DTE Energy is in need of tree trimmers. Tree trimming is a thing. It's not just a thing. It's a very big thing. We spend millions of dollars every year trimming trees away from our power lines. Actually, to the tune of, on average, probably $80 million or so. And we spend a little bit more this year with special permission from the MPSC. And so what we've done, what we have is we have so many miles to trim that we have to pay out of staters to come in at what I'll call for per diems, which are essentially a penalty to trim our trees away from our power lines. We have a workforce right here in Detroit that can help us get that work done. And just to speak to how important trees are, whenever there's a storm or whenever the wind blows or whenever it's raining, your lights start to flicker or lights go out. 99% of the time, that's because the wind has blown a tree or a limb into a power line. So it's a very important aspect of reliable power distribution. So our tree trimming workforce right now is 98% not diverse. So we're taking this need to expand our workforce to kind of put an effort on making it more diverse as well. And so I'll steal some words from our CEO, Jared Garcia. So we have a need. We need about 200 more tree trimmers. The city of Detroit has a need to have jobs. And when you got those needs overlapping, you got kind of some magic. And we're able to throw some resources at creating those diverse opportunities for Detroiters and getting the goals that we need accomplished at the same time. So what we've done is we've partnered with Focus Hope to go out and recruit and identify solid candidates from across the city of Detroit. Again, we're focusing on Detroit. We'll take anybody in the program, but we are focusing on the Detroit area. We're going to put them through a 6-week program. And I'm going to have Ms. Tinsley and Clinton tell you a little bit about that in a second. And then they're going to be, it's a pre-apprenticeship program. And with that training, that's going to set them up to be solid apprentice in the IBEW apprenticeship program. And I'll have Clinton tell you about that. IBEW, I wasn't aware of this until I got in this role. It's one of the most powerful unions in the country. There's a local there in every state, including Hawaii, which, if somebody gets into it and gets tired of the cold, maybe they can relocate to Hawaii. But essentially what we're doing is it's a tough trade. Not many people can handle it. The natural track, as it were, the reason why there's a great dearth of those tree trimmers is only 32% of people make it through typically, historically. So that's what empirical data is telling us, that if 100 people sign up, they say, hey, I want to be tree trimmer. They hear about the money these guys make, and they make pretty good money. Only 32 of them are going to make it to the end to be journeymen. And I'll just talk a little bit about the money they make because that's probably one of the biggest draws. You see, there are 5 contractors that we use at DT, only 5 to trim all of our trees across our service territory. You got Wright, Asplin, Captain, Energy, and Davy. And you see these guys riding around your neighborhoods. So people don't know what they do. but they may not look it, but they all make pretty good money. Journeymen top out when they complete the apprenticeship program. They make over $30 an hour with a good amount of overtime and a good amount of 401k benefits. And it's not uncommon to run into one of these guys if you would just kind of randomly pick one and he's making six figures, right, with the amount of overtime he's making. And they're right here in the Detroit area. So what we've done is, again, like I said, it's typically a low success rate. And so we've taken those failure modes, as many of them that we could identify as possible, and kind of put that into the selection process and embedded it into the 6-week preparation program to kind of mend or heal that success rate, or the failure rate rather, and make it better. And so here's just kind of getting into the 6-week program. So you got Linda Tinsley with Focus Hope. They're going to handle the work prep piece and the CDL piece. And then Clinton Williams from IBW is the tree expert. We're going to talk about the tree trimming basics, and he's going to be actually the head trainer. So with that, Ms. Tinsley, I'll hand it over to you and give these folks some insightful information about our program. Thank you.
Thank you, Terrell. And thank you for inviting us to make this presentation. We are very excited about partnering with DTE to increase the number of tree trimmers in Detroit and increase the diversity of tree trimmers. So we are currently recruiting students, is on our website. Anyone interested should call Focus Hope. We have a class starting in March 22nd. When they enter this class, they're going to have daily affirmation statements that they're going to write to create a positive attitude. So we call this our Psychology of Success curriculum. We want everyone to be geared towards success. They're going to take a career assessment so we can assess their interest, skills, and abilities prior to coming into this class to make sure that they're a good fit. They will have an interview with this panel, including Clinton, myself, and a case manager. They will have the opportunity to earn a customer service credential as a business professional in customer service. So we go over all of the elements in customer service. So it'll be time management, conflict resolution, diversity training, which will lead to a certificate. They will have computer literacy, financial literacy, and again, all with a growth mindset so that they have a vision of their future and they can take on this career path. Also, in the first 2 weeks, they will be able to study safety rules from the Secretary of State so that they can get a temporary learner's permit so that they can drive the truck. After they finish the tree trimming basic that Clinton Williams will go over, they were in a truck driving school, a U.S. truck driving school, and earned their CDLB. And throughout this program, while they're in school, we will have stipends that they will earn every day. So in the first 2 weeks, they'll get $50 a day paid weekly. And then the last 4 weeks, they will get $100 a day paid weekly. And throughout the program, they will be eligible for all sorts of supportive services. We want to mitigate any barriers that they may have to being successful in our program and successful on the job. Linton.
Well, thank you, Linda. Now, the weeks 3 and 4, we'll go over, as it shows here, tree trimming basics. The purpose of this is to just get them immersed into the atmosphere of the work that they're going to do. And primarily what we want to do, we want to make sure that they're set up for success with regard to the apprenticeship program. As was mentioned before, we have a high attrition rate. So our goal is to make sure that, first of all, we give them everything that they need so that they can make this successful. And 2, just help them to appreciate the various avenues that are available in the arboriculture field. So we're going to highlight safety. It is a very dangerous job. Tree trimming is one of the top 5 most dangerous occupations. But then when you add the element of electricity, well, of course, it just brings it that much higher. So we're going to emphasize safety. We're going to teach them everything they need to do to be a good groundsman. So that way, when they actually leave the 6-week program and they start working in the field, they're self-sufficient. They can do the work that they need to do with very little supervision. And also, we'll teach them how to climb trees in this program, along with learning all the various life support knots that they'll need to know once they start the apprenticeship program. And by doing this, to get our a little higher than 32%.
All right, sweet. You're breaking up there, Clint. I'm not sure if that's me. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I wasn't sure if it was my connection. Yes, you are
Okay.
breaking up.
Oh, I am?
No. I'm talking about Mr. Williams.
Oh, okay. Well, we got Clint, we got 99% of it. And I'll show you that last 1%. He speaks very well and he was articulate just like the rest of it. So he brought up a very good point. This is a very dangerous job, like many of the jobs at DTE, but we're going to really hit safety hard. Our previous CEO used to say that, you're talking about safety in particular, but any subject enough when people are sick of you talking about it. So we're just going to be teaching safety. If they stick to the safety protocols and do everything that they're taught, they'll be all right. Just to kind of wrap up or finish up our presentation here. So here's a little bit of the preparatory work we have to do in order to stand this up. We've been working over it for over a year, but to get to cut to something more poignant here, we actually partnered with the city of Detroit to be able to, since we focused on Detroiters, we wanted to be able to train folks right here in Detroit. And so we partnered with the city of Detroit to identify a property and purchase it and actually build a training facility there. So we've done that just east of Rouge Park. We actually were trying to buy a piece of a park, but that turned out to be much more difficult than you would think, or maybe not, more difficult than I thought. And so we were able to purchase this property, conduct the construction on it, and we're wrapping up construction now. And as mentioned earlier, we're starting our first cohort March 22nd. And so you guys can call Focus Hope. I'll bring that slide back at the end and get signed up for that. And so here's just kind of a picture of the training facility that we have here. This is actually a replica of, we mimic the training facility that IBEW currently has in Wells, Michigan. So Wells, you have to go up there to get tree trimming training. You have to go up there for your ongoing apprenticeship training. And so we wanted to be able to, it's difficult for folks to get to that have transportation issues. It's difficult for me to get to when I don't have any transportation issues, at least none that I see so far. But we wanted to bring that home to Detroit, and we were able to do that. So that structure you see there is quite the site. It's 65 feet tall. You have to know what you're doing to be able to get up there. And working with Clinton, these guys are going to know exactly what they're doing to get there. Again, here are some of the dates for our first cohorts that we have scheduled on the books. Again, like Linda pointed out, it is paid training. So you get $50 a week for the first 2 weeks, and then $100 a week, $100 a day for the next 2 weeks.
Okay, Terrell?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, this is Jametta. We can't tell you how awesome it is to hear this very concrete opportunity for Detroiters. And you've let us know, all of you together, that it is a real opportunity. It's competitive, but it provides a good wage, and that's what our community needs. So please excuse me for popping in, but we're running out of time, and I just needed to make sure that yeah, we did a couple things. So number one, thank you for providing the slides. Families that are watching, we want you to please know that you can access this information for DTE. And we're going to probably ask you to come back in some of the coming weeks to let us know how we can move it forward, because we want our city to be safe and employed with real opportunities for education and our health and well-being. Let me then, families, as we get ready to close out the program, give you a couple of other updates. And that is that we would love for you to know that the coalition, working with many of the health partners that you've seen on this program, Henry Ford, the health department, and others, Chaz, we really believe there's a need for probably a speakers bureau, one in particular that has the voices of Black and African-American scientists, that instead of all of us trying to scramble what association we talk to, we want to kind of send out the call. Well, can't we have a standard telephone number, an entity that helps to create a speakers bureau, so that when parents, when people in the community want to have someone come speak to them, there is a centralized place that they can call. We think there's real merit in that. And if you're listening and you're interested in partnering with the COVID313 coalition on that, we'd love to hear from you. There are two other opportunities that we'd like for you to know. One of them is our own Christine Bell, who typically is co-moderating with me in this program, of the Urban Neighborhood Initiatives. And UNI is partnering with Wayne Health as well as Chaz to make sure that there is an upcoming COVID testing program. And we all need to know it's vaccines, but we need people to get tested consistently, staying masked up, staying 6 feet away. Join them. They're having a clinic on Friday from 2 to 6 p.m. And so important, Gleaners is going to be at their location from 2 to 4. And again, that's for mobile testing for COVID with you and I, working with Chaz and Wayne Health to make sure that there is testing available from 2 to 6 with Gleaners on site for food distribution from 2 to 4. Also, I'd like to let you know that if you are interested in having the Wayne Health mobile testing unit to come to your church or your school, because as I speak, those units are out at New Paradigm schools and also churches, you can call them at area code 313-448-9117. That area code 313-448-9117. And that is for the Wayne Health Mobile Testing Unit. And we're always delighted to say, and Detroit Parent Network, our advocates will be there to help you make connections for the healthcare, food, or educational resources that your children might need. And last but not least, we want to invite you to a special session that DP is in our parent cafe. So we ask our parents to show up with what you need, whether it's some juice, some coffee, or water, to ask your questions. We're focusing in on Black elders next Wednesday, February the 24th at 5:30. That information is in the chat. Again, that is open to the public, and our seniors will be asking questions of experts and concerns that they have, and also be able to get resources. And that again is next Wednesday, February the 24th at 5:30 p.m. So Arlisa, I think as I look around, we have touched all of the critical things that we needed to try to touch today. We've had another awesome program. I'm going to ask all the folks that help make this weekly endeavor a reality to come on screen. This is the essence of community work. We are all doing this job literally off the side of our desk, but we know communicating with you, Metro Detroit, and others is so important to bring families information we can use. So with that, we are going to wrap it up, and thank you so much. Tune back in with us next week. We are saying goodbye, be blessed, stay well, stay safe, stay strong. Everyone, lights on. Let's see your faces, please. I'm going to pick on you. Okay, Ophelia, where are you? Okay, Marifa. Okay, DPTV. Okay, we need all of you. And to our speakers from DTE and all of the other partners that joined us, we appreciate you. Be well, stay strong. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.